Hey guys, this is Fran Warren from the Educators Room, and thank you for joining us for day 2 of Live Your Best Teacher Life 5-day challenge. We are on day 2, and today we're going to talk about organization, how organization can kill you or it can get your life together. Before we start, last night was so great. Thank you everybody who came out. Thank you everybody who had comments. It was really interesting because so many people responded so well about how it's December and they're really trying to go into the new year with some things together. So I want to start with, let's do a little recap. Last night we talked about teacher burnout. Tonight we're going to talk about organization. Tomorrow night, we're going to talk about confronting negativity. That's going to be a good one, guys. Then on Friday night, we're going to talk about finding your teacher tribe. How do you find your teacher tribes? How do you find your teacher BFFs? And last but not least, we're going to talk about on Saturday, what's your next steps? How do you go into January doing all of these things and not getting overwhelmed? So before we start tonight, in the show notes, you are going to see if you have any questions, please leave it for us there. Also, make sure that you read your emails. We are having enrollment starting January 1st for our Teacher Learning Academy. Remember, this is a place for new teachers with under 5 years, but really teachers under 3 or less years who are finding themselves needing some support and needing some things in order for them to be effective in the classroom. So thank you for joining us. Let's get started. So let's talk about teacher organization. Guys, when I was a first-year teacher, I was so unorganized. Like, literally, I couldn't find papers. I couldn't find supplies. Everything was all over the room. And then the infamous, I taught high school. So let me tell you what high school kids do. When they don't turn in work, they say, "You lost my work." And it's the worst feeling in the world for a teacher to go through because you're already unorganized and now you have a kid claiming that you've lost their work. So let's talk about how do you get organized as a teacher. I think one of the first things that you have to do is you have to make sure that you have a handle on grading, you have a handle on deadlines, you have a handle on what you have to do, and you have a handle on what's next. So let's talk grading. First and foremost, somebody suggested this to me a while ago, and it's crazy. Actually, a couple of years ago, what I did, they suggested that I go to the grocery store and that I grab some crates, some milk crates, and I had one for each period of class that I had. So I had 5 periods. And so I had 5 milk crates. And in those milk crates, y'all, I went to Office Depot. I don't even think I went to Office Depot. I went to our school secretary and she had a ton of hanging folders. Nobody wanted them. So I said, "Hey, can I have them?" She gave me like 3 boxes of file folders, hanging file folders. And for the milk crates, I wish I had one here, but for each milk crate, I literally put the file folders in. And for each of my students in that class, I had their name, was first and last initial. And if I had any graded work to give them, anything that I needed, any work samples, everything was there. So that's the first thing with grading. As a new teacher, you cannot kill yourself trying to grade everything. And when I was a new teacher, I tried to grade everything. I think looking at the end of the semester, I probably had like 50 grades. And these are high school seniors. And so it was great. Like, I had all these grades, but it killed me as a teacher to grade it. So one of the suggestions that I have is parents are going to come. Parents are going to ask you about students. They're going to ask you about their grades. They're going to say, "Why does my child have this? How did they earn this?" For all of my students, any major work, I put their work in there. And the kids knew that they could go and look at their stuff. They could, when they got things back, there were of significant grades, put it in there. And it helped me when I had to have parent-teacher conference. I could pull out their work or their lack of work, and we could have a conversation. I hate grading too, Teacher Tam. I hate it. It's horrible. Now, that was my first couple of years of teaching. And even through my 17-year career, I still use that system. But I was an English teacher. And we all know that English teachers have tons of papers. Like, I'm talking, I would have 150 kids and I'd have 150 papers to grade. It was horrible. And you talk about losing papers or just getting tired. So one of the things that I started to do probably in my 3rd or 4th year teaching, just before they had Google Classroom, I started making all students turn in their work via Google Drive. So what I did is I set up a Google Drive folder, and in that Google Drive folder, I put every student had a name, and they had a name, and they had a name, and they had their work. So students, I would give them a link, and from that link, they would have to go and they would have to turn in their work there. And so one of the things that I started doing was I stopped accepting paper essays. I stopped accepting paper essays. And because I stopped accepting paper essays, they all had to upload their work to that link, or they had to email it to me, and I upload, and I put all of their corrections in these Google folders. Now in Google Classroom, it's easy, right? I set up a class. Each of my kids has a folder, and the kids can automatically put their stuff in there and share it with me. But what I did, that's a good idea, Annalie, to keep a folder if you're a SPED co-teacher, that's their portfolio. And that's kind of what I did too, file folders. But it was cool. Like, Google Classroom allowed me to make all of my edits to the essays inside. And when parents came or when students said, I lost the essay you graded, and keep in mind, it's taking me 30 minutes to grade each essay, I could easily go to Google Classroom, pull all my edits, and I wouldn't have to deal with all that paper. So I'm telling you, the monster of grading, get you some milk crates, have student portfolios for every student. And a lot of times, this is a trick that I learned. I would take a piece of paper. So if this was the front of their essay, I would put their grade on the back of it. And I would hand it to the kids up. And I would have my student helpers, I would tell them to file it. And I would tell them that for them to put their paper. So I didn't even file the papers. Right. I would tell parents up front my grading policy. That's another thing about your time and organization. At the beginning of each semester, my kids got a syllabus. It outlined what kids were going to do by week, the major assignments. And so you can literally go through and you can do it. Somebody said they have Schoology, so Google Classroom isn't available. Google Classroom is now free for everybody. Everybody has it. So you can use it. You don't have to pay for it. People are going to complain. But what I found is that when you are open about your grading policies, and when you have paper or you have evidence to support the grade, you get a lot less pushback. Or the pushback that you get, it's not that it doesn't matter, but it doesn't hold weight because you've been very clear on the front end. The kids have had the work. Parents have been able to see it, and so you don't have to do that. So in respects of grading, I would tell you, if you are a teacher, please use Google Classroom. If you don't want a paper trail, because high school, middle school students, they always say, my teacher lost my work. No, your work is right here. Even if you have elementary students, having them put their work into the file folder and putting it into the milk crates. And also another important point, there's a lot of apps today. If you're not an English teacher, let's say you're a math teacher, right? And you've assigned kids these problems to do. There's an app that literally you can go through, you can hover over the problem, and you can grade it right there. So there's no reason for you to have a ton of paper. That's right. For my grading, I put all my rubrics on Google Classroom. Remember, Google Classroom is free. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. So I put all my rubrics online. I even got to the point right before I left the classroom was that in addition to kids having a syllabus, in addition to Google Classroom, I put all major work online at the beginning of the semester. Because remember, as an English teacher, we're reading, we're writing, we're doing these things. So I put everything there and I kept it up. And so my policy was, kids, in my grading policy, you have up until the last day of November to get everything you need turned in. And so when December 1st hit, I wouldn't take anything else. But what I found was kids who were going to do the work did the work. Kids who weren't going to do the work, they didn't do the work anyway. So it was just very, very interesting, very, very, it helped save time for me, and it helped me as a professional get organized. Another thing that I suggest, Another thing that I suggest for teachers to do is that every night that I took something home, because remember last night we discussed about you only stay late one day, right? My new teachers, you only stay late one day. But also, you go through and you have each of your classes in folders. So I would organize it. I would put first period, second period, third period, fourth period, fifth period, whatever. And that's the work that I took home. I only took home one class period a day. And what that helped me do was that it was realistic for me to grade, but also it kept me organized because I wasn't spending home 20 different papers for 20 different things. So remember, new teachers, we're talking about how to live your best teacher life. We're talking about how you can do things that are going to help you not be stressed out at the end of the year. So grading is huge. Another thing that I suggest teachers do, if we're talking about organization, we're talking about getting your life right, is the utilization of your phone. Let me tell you, one of the things that I am a stickler, if it's not in my phone, it's not happening. So I tell people all the time, the week, I put everything. If I get a meeting request, I put it in my email, which is connected to my phone, which I get a ding for. So what I'm telling you is that it is really going to help you if you make sure that you stay organized by, number one, figuring out what do I have to do this week, making sure that it's in your calendar for work, or if you use another calendar, and making sure that you set alerts on your phone. It's even gotten to the point now, not in my old age, that I have a reminder on my phone that tells me to go to bed, like 10 o'clock, go to bed, because I'm trying to make sure that I'm living my best life and I'm not stressed out and I'm not trying to do 20 million things. And so these are the things that I have to do. And working through my phone, I have an iPhone, but you can do it in an Android. And you can even set up, if your district doesn't have district mail or doesn't have the capabilities to connect to your phone, you can even use Google Calendar. And you can put everything in Google Calendar. You can even organize it by color. You can do all of that. And so every morning when I wake up and I'm about to get in the shower, I sit down and I scroll through, okay, this is what I have going on today. And I'm a stickler for that because it helps me document certain things that I'm asked for, but also it helps me as I'm seeing, okay, this is going to be a long day. I can't stay after school this day. I got this. So not only putting things in a calendar for your teacher life, but putting things in the calendar for your personal life. So if my kids have a doctor's appointment, if I have a doctor's appointment, if I have a bill due, I put everything in there. So my bills, I put them in for the month. I can go ahead and put those in, right? For my doctor's appointments, I can usually put them in for the month. But other things, as they come up, I put everything in my calendar. Yep, I keep an alarm for bathroom breaks, sure do, because I'll mess around and I won't take a break all day, and then at the end of the day, I'm dying and nobody can relieve me. So I have to prioritize myself. If you're talking about living your best life, you have to make sure that you are, practicing self-care, because if you don't, you'll look up and it'll be 5 o'clock and you wouldn't have got anything done, and that's the worst. Another thing that I do is that I invest in planners. So yeah, Teacher Tam, 6-period planning can either be a blessing or a curse. I love 6-period planning because I'm done. But some people swear by 1st-period planning, or they want planning through the day, by lunch. Yeah, it's crazy, right? So one of the things that I've tried to do is that I've tried to making sure that as a planner person, and I'm going to go get a planner. Let me go get a planner. Okay, so I found my planner. Okay, so I have a couple of different planners. So the Happy Planner is great. So I'm going to tell you about the Happy Planner. Before I do that, so I'm a believer in planners. So I have everything on my phone, but I'm also very paranoid. If I lose my phone, if my phone goes dead, I need something that's backed up that I can look at and I can say, oh, I forgot about this. And so I'm just a visual person, right? I need sometimes to touch things. So I'll get the Erin plan. I'm sorry, not the Erin planner. I'll get the Happy Planner. I've gotten the Erin Condren planner. I've gotten the Purpose Planner. I even have this planner from Staples and you build it. So you get everything that you need. But I'm a person that believes in, I have my digital copy, but I also have my paper copy. And my paper copy sometimes plays a different purpose in that I'm trying to make sure that I don't forget people's birthdays, or I don't like things like that. So I say as a new teacher to invest in both. And I remember as a new teacher, I couldn't afford a planner that I wanted. So I had one of those big calendars that sat on my desk, and that's how I planned it. That was my planner. So whichever method that you choose, whichever method that works for you, you have to use that. But I am a true believer in, if you're going to live your best life, then as a teacher, then you need to plan and you need to be able to see how your time is spent. You know what, that works. When you have your students make one year, I required my students, somebody was given, like they had all of these like little calendar things for kids, like, and I don't know if it was a organization, but they gave us a bunch. I grabbed them for my kids and I had to make them start doing deadlines. And that helped them as it helped me. And I had a big classroom calendar, because one of the things as new teachers go through is that trying to manage your time. You'll look up and it'll be 6 o'clock and you wouldn't have gotten anything done. And so if we're talking about keeping yourself together and living the best life, you have to be able to account for your time. You have to be able, what do I spend here? How much time do I spend in meetings? How much time do I spend in planning? And I'm going to get to planning, because that's a very important part of staying organized. We give my babies planners and they do not use them. You know what I started to do? And people can say whatever. I started telling my kids every day. I started going back to like elementary school. I'd say, let me see your planner. And I would initial it. And I'd say, guys, if you have a whole week where you bring that planner, then I'll let you go ahead and I'll give you 2 points on this. Like, I started having to do that just because I wanted them to understand that their time is valuable and my time is valuable. And so another thing that I started to do is to make sure they started using their planners before they could ask for any makeup work or any revisions on work. I'd say, let me see your planner. Have you written out what you've done? And a lot of them would say no. And I'll be like, well, it looks like you got to write it out. And so the kids started figuring out, and guys, these are 17-year-olds. My first 7 years of teaching, I taught in Memphis City schools. These kids started to get it together. It was some of them that would say, can you hold my planner? Can I keep it in my desk? Can I keep it in my, I'm like, keep it wherever, but you just better have it when you walk in this room. Because it was so critical for me, guys, for me to teach them about time. Like, it just escaped them. And so I didn't want my time wasted. Time is money. Like, time is money. And I would tell them that. I would say, guys, time is money. And they understood that. And they'd be like, okay. Now, let me talk to you guys about planning, because in so many schools, our planning time is taken for meetings and foolishness, right? One of the things I tell teachers, and that's one of the reasons teachers say they leave, because they say they don't have time to plan. So I was one of those people that like, my planning time was my planning time. So I might be called to a meeting. I might be called to an IEP meeting. I might be called to a placement meeting. I might be called to 5 different meetings for the week. I would bring my papers. I would bring my stuff. And while they were planning about getting time started, I'd be sitting there grading and going through with my things. So when you talk about organization, you have to be organized. Grab one of your folders. It's for first period, or it's for your English. If you're an elementary teacher, is your reading homework for the day. Grade it. And while you're sitting there waiting for them to start the meeting, because no one in education starts meetings on time, then you sit and you grade. So that way, when you have, as we said last night, you've said, I'm only staying late one day. I'm only going to, all other days, I'm only staying an hour after work. Then you can do that, and you can literally go through and your time is better spent. And you're not saying, oh my God, I had all this planning time, but nothing's graded. And as a new teacher, it's critical for your sanity for you to leave some things at school. So I'm gonna tell you my last hack, and you guys are gonna think this is funny. I had 5 different teacher bags. I always do. Whenever I teach, I have 5 different teacher bags. I'm talking about the bags that go over it. How do you find time to fit time to take photos of and upload evidence? I feel I spend more time proving I'm teaching than actually teaching. I'm gonna give y'all my secret, and this is This Live Your Best Life 5-day challenge is all about what I learned my 17 years in the classroom. When I taught high school, and even when I worked with middle school teachers, I would have, first off, I would always request for student teachers to be in my room or interns from college, and I would have them do that. When I was in high school and wasn't able to have that, I would ask my students. So they would always have seniors who had, extra periods. I would have them uploading stuff for me. I would say, go to the copier. I would show them how to do it, and those babies would be uploading. And I'm telling you, people say, oh, kids can't do it. I would always make sure they weren't uploading anything that was sensitive. But if I had to upload to my Google Doc, Google Classroom, a rubric, they can upload that. And so I had to be really strategic. If I knew for the month of December, my kids were going to do an expository essay, an informational essay, then by golly, I'm going to map it out. And at the beginning of the semester, I'm going to upload everything that I need and put it there. And it's one of those days where you stay late. Remember yesterday in the webinar, we talked about there's one day that you can stay late, one day a week. That one day at the beginning of the month, I might put it there. And that's right. I take pictures when I circulate. My kids know I'm going to take a picture of your work. Your mom is going to email me about why you didn't do this. Let me take this picture. Like I'm circulating. I'm taking pictures. I'm mapping out the semester. I'm putting things in. You really have to be strategic on how you spend your time. So if we're talking from yesterday, we've said that teachers, you only need to stay late, double late, one day a week, right? So if school is out at 2:30, you might leave at 5:30 on Wednesday. That's the only day I'm going to do that, right? But every other day, you're spending 1 hour after school. So, of course, sometimes you're expected to tutor. But if you're not expected to tutor, I'm sitting in my classroom and I have a list of things I have to accomplish. And hey, I need to upload these things. It's the end of November, and I need to upload these things and have these things available so that, because I know in December I'm going to have to show this. So I became a master of doing that. Okay, so I'm going to stay late today. I'm going to do this. Hey, I have a student helper this day. I'm going to have her do this. And it really helped me be accountable to myself and be accountable to my kids and just keep everything organized. It got to a point where a kid would come and say, you must have lost my work. And other kids would be like, no, she didn't. She don't lose work. And because I just made sure that I had systems in place. So as a new teacher, this can be overwhelming. This can be a lot. I would say, for this year, pick one thing that you can do well, or pick one thing a month that you can work on. It may be just implementing Google Classroom, and that might be your goal. And if it is, that's what you do. It might be where you say, hey, I need to figure out how to keep copies of student work. It might be you implementing a folder system and you making sure that every day you're dropping students' work in there. Whatever you do, don't try to implement all of the things. That's right. You have to figure out what works for you, and whatever works for you, work on perfecting it. These are 17 years of what I did to keep my sanity. And remember, we're talking to teachers with three to less years, sometimes 5 or less years, about how they live their best teacher life. Because a lot of teachers, it's December 27th, they're struggling on how to make it work. And so let me go back to my teacher bags, and then I'm going to be finished. One of the things that I did, I have a separate teacher bag for each day of the week. And let me tell you what I do. So if I know that I have 4 periods, I'm only going to take one thing of graded work. I'm going to drop one in each bag. So when I walk out the door in the morning, I'm grabbing that bag, I'm gone. And I had to be very meticulous about what I needed, make sure I have everything in my bags. And if I didn't put it in my car the night before, then I put it by my door. So when I left in the morning, I could leave out with my teacher bag. So let me talk about one of the things that are in this teacher bag. One of the things that I started to do was that I really started to plan out, like, okay, I'm only going to have 45 minutes for lunch. So let me bring my lunch instead of me leaving school and being stressed out because I got to try to make it before my kids come. I packed my lunch the night before. I would have pre-made breakfast. So I might do egg whites, or I might do cereal or oatmeal, whatever, but everything was laid out the night before. And that's one of the things that got me through. So when we're talking organization, while all of these things may be, oh, I can do that, you can't do it all. These are tips that I did to get my life together and to really make me an effective teacher. this is it for this piece of the webinar. But let me tell you a couple of things. Starting January 1st, we are going to start taking enrollment to our the Educators Room Learning Academy. Guys, this is a course for new teachers who feel like they need support. And it's all the things that we learned as teachers that we learned just through the hard work of teaching. And so enrollment's going to open January 1st. I'm going to put a link. Everybody will have the option of joining, but after January 31st, enrollment is closed until June. And so this is a really good resource. We've had it about a year, and we have a lot of good teachers who are singing its praises, because you're going to see in there in the academy that, you get a book on teacher burnout. There's a whole month on special education. There's a whole month on writing. It just has a bunch of different tools that we think will help you. I can't access the grade book thanks to our setup. Can you do a session on co-teaching challenges? Yes, let me tell you, I love my co-teacher. Oh my gosh, but it only worked because we had mutual respect for each other. So maybe what I'll do is I'll add that tomorrow night, because tomorrow night we're going to talk about negativity. And y'all, negativity will kill you quicker than any bad administrator, than any bad student. Get a group of negative coworkers together and it will just end it. So guys, I will put how to join the Learning Academy in our notes. Also, if you want me to email you about it, I'll put it there. And I'll put a link in Instagram. I'm streaming live on there too. And we'll talk about that. So tomorrow, we're going to talk about negativity. Baby, this is the big one. This is the one that will have you shouting. If you have a negative mind, this might not be the webinar for you, because we're about to go there. So you guys have a great night. Thank you for joining us. Thanks everybody on Instagram Live. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be back about 8 o'clock. A little caveat, my dog ran away at 8 o'clock when I was supposed to be filming. I went and got him, but that's why I was late. So I'll see you guys in a few. Don't forget, click the link in the bio and you can leave your email address, and I'll talk to you guys about how to join the Learning Academy from the Educators Room. Have a great night.